One of the issues before you is just that this is being requested to be rezoned commercial. All uses within the C1 district, and you do have a list within your packet of all the uses that are allowed within the C1 district, would be permitted within this zoning district, within the zoning district once it is rezoned. One of the things in the staff recommendation I failed to put down there, that if you choose to recommend approval of this rezoning, we ask that prior to second reading of the ordinance, a plat be recorded combining all three lots. If you recall, we've done that on several properties, and we've actually done it for quite a few years. So that's kind of a contingency that if you do choose to recommend approval, we ask that be attached to it, but staff does recommend denial of it because it is contrary to the plan. The lots are substandard, not consistent with past actions taken by the town, and also with regards to the access, that is not something you can contract with during the zoning process.
And in regards to platting the parcel, his contract is to purchase all three parcels. It's not to piecemeal it. It'd be sharing between the borderline between 101 and 102. It'd be on that end of the parcel.
All right, do I understand this correctly then? The access would have to be onto Chaho Road, not Kingston Pike.
With our access ordinance, and if you're familiar with that area, putting another curb cut on Kingston Pike would be extremely dangerous. You're head-on collision. I think we've all learned very well from the Weigels mistake, and some others, that you don't want to encourage the front end, the head-on collisions, and
the residents have indicated they don't want another access onto Chaho.
that is the only way they would support. That is, they would support it if there wasn't an access to Chaho.
I'd like to go back to a little bit more fundamental point, is that this was zoned, in the past as 01 for a good purpose, and I cannot see that there's any change in conditions that would warrant changing it, other than a exemption for a particular business or a promise to build a certain thing that's once the zoning, as you mentioned, is given, they can build anything in it that meets with the zoning. And I see that just on the general philosophy of the zoning, there's no reason to rezone it.
What does that do to, if we rezone this, other pieces of property that may be in a similar situation in a different location? Where do we stand with that sort of thing?
It's harder to take a position if you're not consistent.
I feel torn. I mean, I understand. It's like the only possible way you could do it is like close to 102. That little access right there. But I also, I mean, I understand that you can't.
Let me make a couple of comments. One,
You have the history here.
well, irregardless of that, the fact is we base a lot of our actions on the putting in place plans. We've mentioned the land use plan, the transportation plan, and then our consistency in using those as our base to formulate our decisions and translate it into ordinances and our decisions with those ordinances. If there's a reason to change those, we go back and change those. But we need to be consistent with how we're handling the process and be mindful of that. I think it's fairness to the people and how we dealt with this in the past, as well as the consistency into the future. That's all I need to.
Well spoken.
My kids would love to have a Brewster's,
Yeah, that's-
honestly. Probably half of these guys here, but I have to agree with both of y'all.
That's why I feel so torn,
Yeah.
because, exactly, you want it, but then you have to be.
One of the things you
Consistent.
have to, this is not about a Brewster's.
Right.
Believe you me, I
we
love
better
ice cream.
not.
As you can look at me and tell, I love ice cream. But this is not about ice cream.
I know.
This is about, as Ed said, consistency with following your plans. Because once there's, as Ed Whiting said, that once it's rezoned, there is no guarantee. Anything that is allowed in there. And also, land uses aren't permanent. I mean, you know, we see this all the time, that there's transitions and, you know, something doesn't make it, something else moves in. And so you have to take that into consideration as to whether this is an appropriate land use, being commercial when I say that, for this location.
And I guess, put it in perspective, in some respects, this is almost like one of the fundamental things that we did not want to do as a town from the get-go. And I know why we voted in our subdivision to be a part of this town was to have some protections like this. It's really, spot zoning. And I know that we've had a number of good projects come before us in this, and that there is a certain idea you'd like to see this come, but I've also seen ones that were planned and sounded good and never materialized. And then, if that zoning was still that place on that property, then you're open to whatever fits within our ordinances. Not to say these are stagnant, should not be viewed as stagnant plans. We ought to, but again, those are the foundation. Go back and change the plan and the approach to be consistent with the direction the town wants to take, and then deal with it in that framework.
And we are going to be doing a new land use plan this year. So things are going to change anyway, I assume.
Any more comments? Do I have a motion?
In the proposed motion section of the staff recommendation, this goes again to that you make a positive motion, and then if you do not support it, then you vote against it. David's really trying to train us to do this correctly, so even though it can be difficult to make that motion if you don't agree with it.
You should have put us through a training class first. I'm looking at him going, how do I word that?
Well, in the interest
Well,
of
you
that.
notice I put on your proposed motion now to make it easy, and then I put the notation.
Just to make it clear, Ruth, did you say we would, the motion would be to approve it, but then we would vote to deny it?
Correct. That is the appropriate way of doing it. It's hard to do it, I know.
Wow. That's a brain teaser, but okay.
I'd like to ask Mr. Billick one more question.
Sure.
If they were going to put the ice cream place in 102, what would they do with the rest of the land?
The facility they typically do requires, I don't know if, you've been to the one on Emery Road, so if you've been to the one on Rocky Hill on North Shore, the facility needs a lot of parking because there's a lot of people that come in and out fairly quickly. Other than the ones, you sit there and eat ice cream, it takes 30 minutes, maybe an hour if you really dally. Unless it's in the middle of summer, then 30 minutes and you got it all over your hands. But that's a whole other subject matter. But they need a lot of parking.
Well, they would use that whole area for
Not the entire area, but a large portion of it, and he was hoping to put a second use on the property that would use the parking when the Brewster's was not in business. So, but that was his goal, but, it's all subject to approval of the zoning.
Try this again. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the resolution PC 10-11.
All those in favor?
No, you a second?
Oh, second, I'm sorry.
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed, say no.
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 Do I need a roll call vote with this, or?
No, I didn't hear any ayes in that one, so.
I appreciate y'all's time and consideration at least. Thank you.
Welcome.
Item number 4, discussion and public hearing on Kingston Pike, Everett Road intersection improvements.
Packet is Daryl's information, but also a copy of the Tennessee Code annotated section as to why you are reviewing this. I don't think we've had a lot of these come before the commission since we have many new members. And so I included that section of the code just so that you understood why it was coming before you. Chairman Holliday has asked that I do a training session on this at some point in time, so I'll probably do that next month, just to go into the greater detail as to why this is required by our state law. Having said that, I now hand it over to Daryl. And here is the aerial photographs.
I'm not certain that I have presented anything to Planning Commission in quite some time.
Been saving our questions for it.
I've missed you guys. This is a project that has been on our books for several years. This is improvements to Kingston Pike at Everett Road. I'm sure you're all aware that Kingston Pike, as you approach Everett Road and the bridge over Little Turkey Creek, it tapers down from a 5-lane section to 4 lanes in order to minimize the width of that bridge across Little Turkey Creek. I'm sure when that was designed way back, it was assumed that there would never be a need for a center turn lane at Everett Road. As you can see, even in the picture, with all of the development along Everett Road with Fox Run subdivision and Fox Den, there's quite a bit of traffic in there. The only way to make improvements to that intersection, which in my opinion it's a safety issue, is to include a center turn lane on Kingston Pike and a traffic signal at that intersection. We approached TDOT probably 6 years ago and had several discussions about what could be done to improve that. TDOT was very clear, and I'd have to agree with them, that you really can't put a signal at that location until you have a center turn lane. We made an agreement back that I believe the Board of Mayor and Aldermen approved in 2005 that if we would widen the bridge and do all the grading, TDOT would do everything else, including the signal. That's not a bad deal for us. The typical section on this, well, first let me identify the limits. If you've driven through there much, you'll know that the taper begins a few hundred feet to the east of Everett Road, right about where Little Turkey Creek Commons is, in that area where it says Kingston Pike. From there, it tapers down to the bridge and then widens back out all the way around the curve closer to the Weigels in that area. But the idea is to create that center turn lane throughout all of that, including the tapers. The typical section includes 5 12-foot lanes with curb and gutter, sidewalk on each side, and a signal at Everett Road.